Sup everyone, welcome back to another video, and as you may see on screen, it's a different vibe than we're usually used to here on the channel. And that is because this is Tower of Fantasy, and I'm going to tell you guys a little something about this game. Alright, I've been playing this game now for like a continuous, I want to say 15 hours or so. I'm pretty far into the game. I'll just kind of show you guys my character. How do I do that? I'm pretty far into the game. I got multiple 5 stars or SSRs, as you guys want to call it, and I've spent a little bit of money on this game. I think 15 bucks, nothing crazy like $200-400, but enough to kind of know how the monetization is meant to work. I know quite a bit about its gacha system now. I've pretty much got to the highest level I can on day 2 here, as you guys can see on the bottom, level 24. So, you know, I've been playing quite a bit, and there are glaring similarities and differences when you compare this game to something like Genshin Impact, for example. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are curious. All right, Walrus, so, you know, what's your honest thoughts, honest opinions? You're not paid to say anything, so how did you like the game? Do you think it's a worthwhile endeavor? It's even something that people should be looking into when it comes to an alternative to Genshin? Because let's be honest, Genshin, 30 minutes a day, some people can stretch it to an hour, but for the most, under 30 minutes. That's all the game time you have, and that's all Genshin is willing to give. At least that's how it has been for the last 2 years. So, what does Tower of Fantasy offer? And let's be honest here, the game has been out for like 2 days, and including the beta test, it hasn't had much time to show us what it's truly capable of. However, looking on CN and also just asking around, looking on forums, I've been able to kind of get a result that I think I'm happy with sharing with you guys. Alright, so let's start with the similarities. Both Genshin and Tower of Fantasy is an open world RPG game, but where Genshin Impact kind of falls short, Tower of Fantasy pushes it further. Tower of Fantasy allows you to interact with other people in the same world without having to request to join their world or something. So for a lot of traditional MMO players, you're going to be very familiar with this kind of gameplay. However, so far I haven't felt like the game kind of forces you to co-op. Sure, there are tasks such as a world boss. So for example, if you guys look behind me, this is a den of this world boss. Yeah, I know, striking similarities to the Regisvines from Genshin. I know, but just understand that if you want to even have a chance at beating this thing, you need to do it in a group. Well, you don't have to party up per se. You can just come when everybody else is already here beating the crap out of it, and you kill it with them, you get your prize, you dip. There are a ton of other things in this game, such as the adventure tab over here, where you have things that you can do for the week, your weekly stuff, you get points and you get goodies for that. And of course, here are a bunch of other things that you can do in the game, which is quite limited actually right now, but just know a lot of these things are still locked behind levels, which are locked behind days, which is something that's weird, and I'll talk about it really quickly right after here. So as you guys can see here, this is a bunch of things you can do every single day. It's more than Genshin, that's for sure. And apart from that, there's other challenges that you can partake in. They're not quite difficult really, but here if I click on one, you can find a team or go in yourself. I really suggest you find a team. It makes the whole experience faster, smoother, and there's like a DPS meter for people who want to flex. Also, you get to know who healed the most, who took the most damage, all that good stuff, all your traditional MMO stuff. And where I think a lot of other games nowadays shy away from, which is the competitive aspect, Tower Fantasy really leans into it. Now, that may or may not be a good thing, I know, to some people, but to me, certainly it's a breath of fresh air, because for the most part, I've been playing games and it just seems they're all too scared to have players go against each other, and also having a DPS meter just kind of breeds toxicity in the minds of some developers, mainly Lost Ark, and they've said they're never going to add that into the game because they don't think it's good and healthy for the players that way. But Tower of Fantasy really kind of took the traditional aspect back into the MMO experience. Let's talk about the leveling system. The reason, as you can see, I'm here at level 24. My EXP bar is all the way capped at the top. I can't go to level 25, at least not today. Tomorrow, I think the cap raises to 27, and the day after that, I believe it's 30 or 31. So every single day, they're going to slowly raise the level cap, and I think one of the reasons they do this is kind of like if you played Genshin or other games, it's kind of to make sure you don't progress too fast, right? And I think it caps up all the way to day 80, which is absolutely insane. I think day 80 you can finally level up fully, or how many days is it? It's a really long time, months. So in this way, I think it's another similarity in that a lot of the content, at least for now, is gated behind the days, whereas Genshin still do it to this day. It seems like Tower Fantasy is gonna do it for a short period of time in the beginning and release, and make sure everybody kind of progress at a similar rate. As long as you're playing the game, you're gonna be getting access to content at the same rate as everybody else. It doesn't matter if you spend $100,000 or no dollars. Everybody's gonna be the same level, and I think the level cap here is really what's gating a lot of content, as well as zone releases and even some boxes, or what you call it, the loot boxes you'll find just in the overworld. You're not going to be able to open them, it seems like, until a day or 2 days from now, and I've come across a couple of those. All right, but for the most part, I think Tower Fantasy is easily going to get you like 6 to 8 hours of gameplay right now if you just sit down and actively play through the game, and that's with, I would say, a large majority of the content still locked behind the level gate, as we were talking about. When it comes to the strength of Tower Fantasy, I definitely think that the combat system is really what it has going for itself. Character wise, I think they also have pretty good design. I'm not going to say they have the best in the industry, because we, of course, we have Genshin, but one of the things that I found to be not as enjoyable is the animation, to be quite frank with you guys. So we got all these characters who can use different weapons, and you're allowed to equip 3 weapons at a time. As you guys can see, I got 2 spears equipped, and I got this chakram equipped. If you just look at it from a bare bone perspective, like, yeah, the animation looks good, but there's a lot of like awkward cuts. As you guys can see, when my discs reach the end here, it kind of just changes angles like that, and then it flies back when it, oh, let me just jump up here, when it could easily kind of just tilt it in a more smooth motion and or circle back and ring back, but it just kind of goes out and comes back in that fashion. And the animations, like I've been mentioning, just doesn't feel as fluid. They feel very rigid, and there has been quite a number of bugs discovered in the first couple of days, some of which are very annoying, others not so much. But for the most part, the experience has been great. What Tower Fantasy kind of falls short really is quality and polish, and I've been saying this since I first seen the game. Without even playing it, you can tell there's a lot of rigidness to this game, just things that doesn't feel very well thought out and polished. And of course, you can't ever expect things to be perfect. I think for what it's trying to do, it's executing it at a fairly high level. Of course, Genshin has no PvP, so there's really no comparison to be made there. But I think where Tower Fantasy does better than Genshin is really in regards to community. So of course, the game, it is released with a guild feature. As you guys can see, there are all these guilds that are already up and running, which quite wonderful to see. I really feel like when I play Genshin, I'm playing a single player game for the most part, and immediately with Tower Fantasy, I got that multiplayer experience almost right throughout the gate. And I understand that it's a relatively new game, so there's going to be an overpopulation of players just running about and stuff, just doing random things, and you're going to run into them all over the place. And at times it gets annoying because they kind of interrupt or they slow down your quest progression, because you're all trying to pick up the same item or light the same torch or whatever, and then people are just waiting for the respawn. Thank goodness the respawn timer was set to something very low, so even if you were to be competing with 15 other people, chances are you're going to be able to complete the quest relatively quickly. And also, to touch on the gacha system, which I think some of you guys are also interested in, it's quite generous. It's actually much better than Genshin's, and for the most part, I've seen a lot of people get quote-unquote lucky. I don't know if it's meant to happen or not, but getting characters under the pity is not insanely abnormal, and I believe the base rate is already higher than Genshin's, as well as its pity here is also lower than Genshin's. But in Genshin, there is a soft pity, whereas in this game, I believe there's a beginner soft pity. Under 30 pulls, I believe you'll guarantee an SSR, but I don't think that's going to happen every single time. So the hard pity is at 80, and as far as we know, there isn't a soft pity, and unless this changes. So the pity is at 80, Genshin's is at 90, but this one has a slightly higher rate, I believe at 0.75. Let's just double check that. Yep, to get a SSR, which is a 5-star equivalent, whereas Genshin, I believe it was 0.6%. 100%. There's a ton of different banners here, and I can make a whole separate video about the differences between characters, weapons, as well as these these chips that you can also get. It's a huge learning curve, I think, for everybody who's getting into this game, how the weapon system, character system, and I guess you call this the artifact or chip system, how it works. So comment down below if you guys want to see that video. So far, I've been having fun playing this game. I wouldn't say it's the most fun I've ever had, but definitely I would say my time spent in the game has been worth it. The money spent in the game, you know, questionable. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been my very raw first impression of Tower Fantasy. Over the next couple of days, as the game matures and new features release, I may or may not cover them depending on whether you guys want me to. So thank you guys again for sticking around, and until next time, I urge you all to stay safe and peace. Bye.